Commander Day watched the asteroid field through the window of his research ship. The space rocks floated peacefully in the darkness. His team had been working here for 3 weeks, collecting rare crystals that Earth needed for new technology. The work was boring but important. Behind him, scientists moved between computers and storage containers. Everything felt normal. Day checked the time. 2 more hours and they would pack up for the day. His wife had sent him a message that morning. Their daughter had won a science award at school. He smiled thinking about it. Space exploration ran in the family. The alarm shattered the peace. Red lights flashed across every screen. Day spun around. The sensors showed 5 ships approaching fast. They were not sending identification signals. His heart started racing. The radio crackled to life. A harsh voice spoke in broken English. The message was simple and terrible. Surrender everything or die. These were Revok raiders. Everyone knew about them. They attacked weak targets and disappeared before help could arrive. The Galactic Council had done nothing to stop them for years. Day made the hardest choice of his life. His ships were not armed. Running would mean some vessels escaped while others died. He ordered everyone to surrender. Maybe the raiders just wanted the crystals. Maybe they would let everyone live. He was wrong. The Revok ships opened fire without warning. The first blast tore through the main research vessel. Day saw his colleague burned alive as the hull split open. The second ship tried to escape. Missiles caught it before it could jump to hyperspace. Explosions lit up the darkness. People screamed over the radio. Then silence. 73 humans died that day. Scientists, engineers, and 3 families with children. The raiders took the crystals and vanished. They left behind only wreckage and frozen bodies floating in space. 3 days later, Admiral Tay stood in his office on Earth. The walls displayed star maps and fleet positions. He was a tall man with gray hair and hard eyes. Those eyes had seen many battles during Earth's expansion into space. Now they burned with cold anger as he watched the recovered footage from Day's ship. Captain Hana entered without knocking. She was his most trusted officer, commanding the flagship Retribution. Her face showed the same anger he felt. She had lost friends in the attack. They reviewed the facts together. The attack happened in neutral space where everyone had rights to mine. The Galactic Council had jurisdiction there. Ambassador Wan had already filed an official complaint. The Council promised to investigate. Both Tay and Hana knew what that meant. Nothing. The Council loved to talk. They formed committees to study problems. They held debates that lasted months. They wrote reports that no one read. Meanwhile, criminals operated freely. The Revok government protected raiders because the raids brought money. Everyone knew it. No one did anything about it. Tay made a decision. He called his senior officers for a secret meeting. Captain Hana, Captain Hyun from Intelligence, Commander Jin from the Strike Squadron, and Minister Mina, who oversaw all of Earth's military forces. They gathered in a secure room where no one could listen. Tay spoke plainly. Earth had joined the Galactic Federation 30 years ago. Humanity followed the rules. They paid their fees. They attended council meetings. They tried to work within the system. But the system was broken. It protected the powerful and ignored the weak. 73 humans were dead, and the council would do nothing meaningful about it. Minister Mina agreed. She had been at the council headquarters. She watched them vote to form another study committee. It would take 6 months just to assign investigators. The Revok ambassador laughed during the session. He knew his government was safe. They discussed Operation Reckoning. Earth had prepared this plan years ago, hoping never to use it. The plan assumed the Council would fail to protect human interests. It detailed exactly how Earth would respond with military force. Every officer in that room had studied it. Now they would execute it. First, they needed more time. Ambassador Wan would deliver an ultimatum to the Council. She would demand they sanction the Revok government and hand over the raiders within 72 hours. Everyone knew the Council would refuse. But the ultimatum gave Earth legal cover. Humanity tried diplomacy first. What came next would be the Council's fault for failing to act. Ambassador Wan stood before the Galactic Council 2 days later. The chamber was huge, designed to hold representatives from 200 species. Most seats were empty. Many ambassadors sent junior assistants to routine sessions. Only the major powers maintained full attendance. Wan was a small woman, but her voice carried authority. She spoke about the massacre. She showed images of the dead. Children who would never grow up. scientists whose research would never continue. She demanded justice. Counselor Breck responded with barely hidden contempt. The alien looked like a large lizard wearing expensive robes. He had served on the council for 40 years. He considered humans to be newcomers who understood nothing about galactic politics. Breck explained that jurisdiction was complicated. The attack happened in neutral space. Multiple legal frameworks applied. The council needed time to determine the proper approach. He suggested forming a special committee to review the matter. Perhaps in 8 or 9 months they could reach preliminary conclusions. Juan cut him off. Her voice turned ice cold. She gave the council 72 hours to act, sanction the Revik government, deliver the raiders for trial. If the council failed, Earth would pursue justice independently. She made it clear this was not a request or a negotiation. It was a warning. The chamber erupted in noise. Several ambassadors shouted at once. The Revik representative called it an insult. Breck declared that no member species could threaten the council. Juan ignored them all. She walked out before anyone could respond officially. Her message was delivered. Back in his office, Counselor Breck laughed with his assistants. Humans always made bold threats. They always backed down. Earth was just one species among 200. Their military was small compared to the great powers. They could not seriously challenge the council's authority. This would end like it always did. More committees. More delays. Eventually everyone would forget and move on. He was completely wrong. While he laughed, Earth's military was already moving. 3 battle fleets left port under commercial cover. To anyone watching, they looked like cargo vessels and colony ships heading to the outer systems. No one noticed the weapon signatures were masked. No one detected the troops hiding in the cargo holds. No one realized that humanity was going to war. Admiral Tay watched his forces deploy from his command center. Everything was proceeding perfectly. Captain Hyun's intelligence network confirmed the raiders' location. Commander Jin's strike teams were ready to move. Captain Hana's fleet was in position. The clock was counting down. 72 hours. Then the galaxy would learn what happened when you killed humans and expected no consequences. The council wanted to talk. Earth was done talking. Captain Hyun sat in a dark room surrounded by screens. Each screen showed different information about Revik space. Trade routes, military installations, communication networks. She had spent 3 years building an intelligence network that the council did not know existed. Her agents were everywhere. Some worked as merchants in Revik ports. Others posed as maintenance workers on space stations. A few had even infiltrated the Revik government itself. They sent back data constantly. Most of it was useless. But buried in the noise were the details that mattered. Hyun had found the raiders. They were hiding on a military station in the outer territories. The Revik government was protecting them because the station commander was the cousin of a high-ranking official. The raiders thought they were safe. They bragged about the attack in local bars. They spent their stolen credits on expensive drinks. They had no idea that human agents were watching and recording everything. She sent the complete data package to Admiral Tay. Location coordinates, defense capabilities, guard schedules, structural weaknesses. Everything Commander Jin would need for the raid. Hyun's team had done this kind of work for years. The council would be shocked to learn how much Earth actually knew about them. In orbit around a distant moon, Commander Jin briefed her strike team. She was younger than most of her soldiers, but had proven herself in dozens of operations. Her people trusted her completely. They knew she would bring them home. The mission was simple. Board the station. Capture the raiders alive. Get out before reinforcements arrived. They had 12 minutes from breach to extraction. Any longer and Revik military ships would arrive. Speed and surprise were everything. Jin's soldiers checked their equipment in silence. New armor that could stop most alien weapons. Weapons designed specifically to work in space stations without causing hull breaches. Cutting tools that could slice through any known metal. Stun grenades that would disable targets without killing them. Everything was tested and ready. While Jin prepared her team, Captain Hana sat on the bridge of the Retribution. The flagship was massive, larger than most alien capital ships. But size was not what made it deadly. Earth had spent decades developing weapons in secret. The other species assumed human technology was primitive. They were wrong. The Retribution carried railguns that could punch through heavy armor at incredible distances. missile systems that overwhelmed defensive fire with sheer numbers, electronic warfare arrays that could blind enemy sensors or take control of their computers, and the reactors to power all of it without running dry. Hana knew her ship could defeat vessels 3 times its size. Her fleet included 12 other warships, cruisers with advanced shields, destroyers built for speed, carriers holding hundreds of fighter craft. They waited in deep space, silent and invisible. Standard procedure was to run engines and sensors on standby, making the ships look like dead metal floating in space. Any scout that passed would see nothing worth reporting. Minister Mina coordinated everything from Earth. She sat in the war room deep under the capital city. Around her, displays showed the positions of all 3 battle fleets. Each fleet had a specific target. Hana would hit the Raider station. The other 2 fleets would strike Revik military bases to prevent reinforcements from launching. All 3 operations needed to happen simultaneously. Mina had served in the military for 20 years before entering politics. She understood war. She also understood that this operation would change everything. Earth was about to break the most fundamental rule of the Galactic Federation. Member species did not attack each other. The Council handled all disputes. What happened in the next few hours would either force the Council to reform or destroy Earth's place in galactic society. She spoke with Admiral Tay over the secure channel. They reviewed the timeline one last time. Everything depended on timing. If they struck too early, the Revik would have time to hide the raiders. Too late, and the Council might actually take action for once. The window was narrow. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council headquarters, the 72-hour deadline was approaching. Councillor Breck had called a full session to address Earth's ultimatum. The chamber was actually full this time. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Breck stood at the central podium. He looked confident. Around him sat representatives from 200 species. Some looked concerned. Most looked bored. This was just another diplomatic crisis. They happened all the time. Someone would make speeches. They would vote on a resolution. Everything would return to normal. Breck began his speech. He talked about how the Council must not bow to threats. He said that every species must follow proper procedures. He reminded everyone that Earth was young and inexperienced. They needed guidance, not their own way. The solution was more committees and more time to study the issue properly. The Revik ambassador stood next. He was a fat creature who wore too much jewelry. He spoke about how insulted his government felt. Earth was accusing them without evidence. The raiders were independent criminals that no government could control. Revik demanded an apology. Several council members nodded along. Ambassador Wan watched from Earth's seat. Her face showed nothing. She checked the time quietly. 4 hours until the deadline. She knew the fleets were already in position. She knew what was coming. These fools thought they were safe in their chamber making speeches. They had no idea. The vote came quickly. The Council decided to form a special investigative committee. They would study the incident for 6 months and then issue recommendations. It was exactly what everyone expected. Business as usual. Several ambassadors were already leaving to attend more important meetings. Juan stood and requested permission to speak. Breck looked annoyed but allowed it. Protocol required giving member species a chance to respond to votes. Juan walked to the podium slowly. Every eye watched her. The chamber became quiet. She spoke only 3 sentences. The Council has chosen inaction. Earth will remember this. And she walked out. The door closed behind her with a heavy sound that echoed through the chamber. Several ambassadors looked at each other nervously. Something about her tone felt wrong. Breck dismissed their concerns. Humans were always dramatic. They loved making grand exits and bold statements. In a few days, Earth would come back with a new compromise proposal. Everything would settle down. He scheduled lunch with several powerful ambassadors to discuss other matters. On the retribution, Captain Hana received the final authorization codes. The countdown had begun. In 1 hour, they would strike. She stood and addressed her crew over the ship's communication system. Her voice was calm and clear. She told them about the 73 dead. She reminded them why they served. She explained that what they were about to do was not revenge. It was justice. The galaxy had forgotten what justice looked like. Earth would remind them. The crew responded with determination. They checked weapons one final time. Engineers pushed the reactors to full power. Fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits. Marines loaded onto assault ships. The massive vessel hummed with energy as every system activated. Admiral Tay sat alone in his office. In front of him was a photo of Commander Day and his family. They had sent it last year during the holidays. Everyone was smiling. The daughter held her science award proudly. All three were dead now. Tay had started his career believing in the Federation. He thought that different species working together could create a better galaxy. 30 years of experience had taught him otherwise. The Federation was corrupt. The powerful did whatever they wanted. The weak suffered in silence. He checked the countdown. 30 minutes. He opened a communication channel to all three fleet commanders. His orders were simple. Execute Operation Reckoning. Show no mercy to those who resist. Capture the raiders alive if possible. But complete the mission at any cost. The replies came back instantly. All ships were ready. All personnel were in position. Earth's military machine was about to show the galaxy what it could do. The Council would be speechless. The Revok would be crushed, and humanity would never again be dismissed as weak newcomers. The countdown reached 0. Space rippled as the Retribution dropped out of hyperspace. 12 warships appeared with it. They arrived in perfect formation directly above the Revok military station. The station's alarms began screaming immediately. On every Revok ship in the system, sensors went crazy. An entire Earth fleet had just appeared from nowhere. Captain Hana stood on the bridge watching the tactical display. The station was exactly where intelligence said it would be. 3 Revok warships orbited nearby. 2 more were docked for repairs. Perfect. The enemy was spread out and unprepared. The Revok station commander was eating lunch when the alarm started. He dropped his food and ran to the control center. The screens showed impossible things. Human ships. Lots of them. Their weapons were hot and targeting systems were active. He started screaming orders. Get the defense fleet launched. Activate the shields. Call for help from the homeworld. Hana gave her first order. Fire. The Retribution's railguns opened up. Solid metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds. They crossed the distance in seconds. The first Revok warship took 3 hits before its shields even finished powering up. The impacts shattered the shield generators. The 4th slug punched straight through the hull. The ship died before it could return fire. The other human ships engaged their targets. Missiles filled the space between the fleets. Earth's missiles moved faster and carried more explosives than anything the Revok had seen. The second Revok warship tried to maneuver away. It never had a chance. 16 missiles hit it at once. The ship broke apart in a brilliant explosion. The third Revok ship was smarter. Its captain recognized they were completely outmatched. He ordered his crew to abandon ship and broadcast a surrender signal. Hana saw the signal and held fire. Her orders were to destroy any resistance but accept surrenders. The Revok crew evacuated in escape pods. Human fighters collected them quickly. The 2 docked ships never got a chance to undock. A human cruiser disabled them with precise railgun fire to their engines. Trapped against the station, they could not fight or flee. Their crews surrendered within minutes. The entire space battle lasted 8 minutes. The Revok Defense Force was destroyed or captured. 0 human casualties. Hana checked her display. Phase 1 was complete. Time for Phase 2. Commander Jin watched the battle from her assault ship. She commanded 60 soldiers and 6 boarding craft. They had waited for the shooting to stop. Now it was their turn. The assault ships detached from the Retribution and accelerated toward the station. The station tried to shoot them down with defensive guns. Human electronic warfare shut down most of the weapons. The few guns that kept working were destroyed by fighter escorts. Nothing was going to stop this boarding action. Jin's ship hit the station's hull with a heavy clang. Cutting tools activated immediately. They sliced through the metal in seconds. The soldiers poured through the breach into a cargo bay. Revok soldiers were rushing to defend it. They never reached the bay in time. Stun grenades went first. The weapons released electromagnetic pulses that overloaded alien nervous systems without killing them. Revok defenders dropped like stones. Jin's team moved forward in perfect coordination. They had trained for this. Every soldier knew exactly what to do. The station was large, but human intelligence had provided complete maps. Jin split her force into 3 groups. One group secured the control center to prevent the station from destroying itself. Another group moved to engineering to disable the self-destruct systems. Jin led the 3rd group directly to the section where the raiders were hiding. They met resistance in a main corridor. Revik Marines had set up a defensive position with heavy weapons. The corridor was too narrow to go around. Jin called up her heavy weapons specialist. The soldier fired a small missile that stuck to the wall behind the defenders. 3 seconds later, it exploded. The blast went backward through the Revik position. The defenders were thrown forward by the shockwave, unconscious or dead. Jin's team stepped over the bodies and kept moving. They had been inside the station for 6 minutes. They had 6 more minutes before Revik reinforcements could arrive from other systems. The clock was always running. The raiders were in a luxury section of the station. They had been living like kings while spending their stolen money. When the alarm started, they tried to reach an escape ship. Jin's team caught them in the corridor. The raiders were not soldiers. They were criminals. They dropped their weapons immediately when they saw armed humans. Jin counted them. 73 raiders, the exact same number of humans they had murdered. She felt cold satisfaction. Her team zip-tied their hands and prepared them for transport. One raider tried to beg for mercy. Jin ignored him completely. These things had killed children. They deserved nothing. Her radio crackled. The other teams reported success. The control center was secure. Self-destruct was disabled. Engineering was under human control. Time for extraction. Jin ordered everyone back to the breach point. They half carried and half dragged the prisoners through the corridors. They reached the assault ships with 2 minutes to spare. The prisoners were thrown into holding cells. Soldiers strapped in for departure. The cutting seals released and the ships pushed away from the station. Jin checked her roster. Every human soldier was accounted for. Not one casualty. Perfect execution. Captain Hana watched the assault ships return to the fleet. She smiled. 12 minutes from start to finish. Just like they planned. Now came the message. Admiral Tay appeared on her communication screen. He looked satisfied but not happy. There was no joy in this. Just a job that needed doing. He told Hana to prepare the broadcast. It was time to tell the galaxy what happened. Tay recorded his message sitting in his office. Behind him hung the Earth flag. His voice was calm and absolutely firm. He explained what had happened. Earth had given the Council 72 hours to deliver justice. The Council refused. So Earth took action itself. The raiders responsible for murdering 73 humans were now in custody. They would face trial under human law. Then his voice became harder. He addressed the Revik government directly. Their military had attacked human ships. They had protected criminals. They had refused to cooperate with justice. Earth considered these acts of war. The Revik had one chance to stand down and avoid further conflict. If they chose to fight, Earth would respond with overwhelming force. Finally, he addressed the Council. Earth had tried to work within their system. The system failed. From now on, humanity would protect its citizens by any means necessary. Other species could choose to join Earth in demanding real justice. Or they could continue accepting the Council's empty promises. The choice was theirs. The message was broadcast across every communication frequency. Every government in the galaxy received it. More importantly, Tay included footage from the operation, the battle, the boarding action, the captured raiders. He wanted everyone to see exactly what Earth could do. At the Galactic Council headquarters, Councillor Breck watched the message with growing horror. This was impossible. Member species did not attack each other. The entire Federation was built on that rule. Humanity had just shattered it. And they did it so easily, so perfectly. The military precision in that footage was frightening. He called an emergency council session immediately. Ambassadors arrived in a panic. Everyone had seen the broadcast. The chamber filled with angry voices all shouting at once. The Revik ambassador demanded that Earth be expelled from the Federation. Other species called for sanctions. A few voices tried to suggest negotiations. Ambassador Wan sat calmly in Earth's seat. She said nothing. She did not need to. Her silence said everything. Earth had acted. The results spoke for themselves. The Council could complain all it wanted. It changed nothing. Across the galaxy, military analysts studied the footage obsessively. Human weapons were far more advanced than anyone realized. Their tactics were brutal and efficient. The coordination between fleet and ground forces was perfect. And this was just one operation. How many more ships did Earth have? What other weapons were they hiding? In his command center, Admiral Tay read the intelligence reports. The operation had succeeded beyond all expectations. 0 casualties. All objectives met. The galaxy was reacting exactly as predicted. Fear, confusion, respect, good. Let them wonder what else Earth could do. He looked at the photo of Commander Day's family one more time. Then he filed it away. The first step was complete. But this was just the beginning. The Council would try to retaliate. The Revok would want revenge. Earth needed to be ready for what came next. The war had started. Now they would see it through to the end. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Every ambassador attended in person. No one wanted to miss this session. The tension was thick enough to cut. Species that usually ignored council meetings had sent their highest representatives. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. Councillor Breck stood at the central podium. His scales looked darker than usual. He had not slept since watching Earth's broadcast. The images kept playing in his mind. Human warships destroying Revok forces in minutes. Soldiers moving through the station like unstoppable machines. The captured raiders being dragged away. It was humiliating for the Council. It made them look weak and useless. He began his speech by calling Earth's actions an outrage. A violation of every principle the Federation stood for. Member species did not attack each other. They brought disputes to the Council. They followed proper procedures. Humanity had broken the most sacred rule. They must be punished severely or the entire Federation would collapse. The Revok ambassador spoke next. He was shaking with rage. His government demanded immediate military action against Earth. The Council must assemble a combined fleet and force humanity to surrender. The raiders must be returned. Earth must pay enormous compensation. And human leaders must be arrested and tried for war crimes. Several other ambassadors supported this position. They called for sanctions, trade embargoes, expulsion from the Federation. Some wanted to seize Earth's colonies. The angry speeches continued for an hour. It seemed like the entire Council was united against humanity. Then Councillor Una asked for permission to speak. She was from a smaller species that usually stayed quiet during council sessions. Breck looked annoyed but allowed it. Protocol required hearing from everyone. Una spoke carefully. She reminded the Council that 73 humans had been murdered. She pointed out that Earth had followed proper procedure by filing complaints and requesting action. She noted that the Council had voted to do nothing meaningful for 6 months. Was it really surprising that Earth chose to act? Could anyone honestly say their species would accept such treatment? The chamber erupted. Half the ambassadors shouted her down. How dare she defend Earth's actions? Breck tried to regain control, but the session dissolved into chaos. It took 20 minutes before order was restored. Ambassador Juan finally stood to speak. The chamber became quiet. Everyone wanted to hear what Earth would say. Juan walked to the podium slowly. She looked at each section of ambassadors. Then she began. She spoke about Earth's 30 years in the Federation, how humanity had tried to follow every rule, how they paid their fees and attended every meeting, how they believed the Council would protect all member species equally. But 73 dead humans proved that belief was wrong. Juan displayed data on the screens around the chamber. Lists of crimes reported to the Council over the past 10 years. Pirates attacking trade ships, slavers raiding colonies, border disputes turning violent, thousands of incidents. And what did the Council do? Form committees, write reports, hold debates, take years to reach decisions that meant nothing. She showed that the Revok government had been protecting raiders for 5 years. Multiple species had filed complaints. The Council knew about it. They did nothing. Why? Because the Revok were a major power. Because taking action would be difficult. Because it was easier to talk than to act. Then Juan asked the question that made everyone uncomfortable. If the Council would not protect Earth's citizens, what was the point of the Federation? Why should any species follow rules that only applied to the weak? How long before other species decided they needed to protect themselves? She finished by saying Earth would not apologize, would not surrender the raiders, would not accept any punishment. The humans who committed murder would face justice. If the Council wanted to take action against Earth, they could try. But they should watch the battle footage one more time before making that decision. Juan returned to her seat. The chamber was silent. Several ambassadors looked at each other nervously. The smaller species especially seemed thoughtful. Juan's words had struck a nerve. Many of them had filed complaints that went nowhere. Many had watched criminals go unpunished because the council moved too slowly. Breck called for a vote on sanctions against Earth. The result shocked him. Only 70 species voted for sanctions. 60 voted against. The rest abstained. The motion failed. Without a clear majority, the council could not take action. Meanwhile, military analysts across the galaxy continued studying the battle footage. Admiral Keth commanded the council's combined defense force. He was supposed to be the council's answer to military threats. After watching Earth's operation, he felt sick. The human fleet moved with precision he had never seen. Their weapons were generations ahead of standard Federation technology. The electronic warfare capabilities were terrifying, and the boarding action was perfect. His own forces could not have executed that mission so cleanly. Keth wrote a classified report for the council leadership. In it, he estimated that Earth's military could defeat most individual council species in direct combat. If they deployed their full strength, even the major powers would struggle. The council had been completely wrong about human military capabilities. They were not newcomers with primitive weapons. They were a sleeping giant that just woke up. The report leaked within days. Someone on Keth's staff sold it to the media. News networks across the galaxy ran stories about Earth's military power. Some species panicked. Others started reassessing their own security. A few began quietly reaching out to human diplomats. On Earth, Admiral Tay held a press conference. Human journalists asked if he was worried about council retaliation. Tay smiled coldly. The council was welcome to try. Earth's fleets were ready, but he did not think it would come to that. The council talked a lot but rarely acted. They proved it when they refused to help with the raiders. He was asked what Earth wanted. Tay's answer was simple: justice for all Federation members, a council that actually enforced its rules, an end to the corruption and favoritism that let criminals operate freely. If the council could provide that, Earth would be happy to cooperate. If not, humanity would continue protecting its interests independently. Minister Mina watched the conference from her office. The military operation had succeeded perfectly. Now came the political battle. She had received quiet messages from 17 species. They wanted to talk about mutual security arrangements. They wanted Earth's help dealing with threats the council ignored. This was exactly what she had hoped for. Earth did not want to fight the entire galaxy. That would be impossible. But if they could build a coalition of species who wanted real change, the balance of power would shift. The council would have to reform or become irrelevant. Captain Hana received new orders. Keep the fleet on high alert. The Revik might try another attack. Intelligence suggested they were mobilizing forces. If they were stupid enough to strike, Earth needed to be ready to respond. The Revik government held emergency meetings. Their military leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted immediate revenge against Earth. Others warned that attacking humanity would be suicide. The intelligence reports were clear. Earth had more ships and better weapons than anyone suspected. But the Revik leadership felt humiliated. Earth had struck their territory, captured their citizens, destroyed their ships, made them look weak. Pride demanded a response. Political pressure was building. If the government did nothing, they might fall from power. Someone had to pay for this embarrassment. They made their decision: launch a retaliatory strike against a human colony. Pick a small target far from Earth's main forces. Hit it hard and fast. Show that Revik still had strength. Prove that attacking them had consequences. It would be a limited action just to restore honor. It was the worst decision they could have made. Captain Hyun's intelligence network detected the Revik fleet movements immediately. She watched them gather at a staging point. She saw their course calculations. She knew exactly where they were going and when they would arrive. Hyun sent an urgent message to Admiral Tay. The Revik were planning an attack. Earth had time to position forces for an ambush. This was an opportunity. The Revik were giving humanity an excuse to finish what they started. Tay made his decision in seconds. Deploy Captain Hana's fleet to intercept. No warnings. No negotiations. The Revik had chosen war. Earth would give them war, and when it was over, the galaxy would understand that attacking humanity brought only destruction. The Revik fleet dropped out of hyperspace feeling confident. 18 warships against a small human colony. The settlement had minimal defenses. This would be an easy victory. Their admiral ordered weapons charged and targeting systems active. Time to teach Earth a lesson about respect. Then sensors detected something that made the Admiral's blood turn cold. Ships were already in the system. Human ships. Lots of them. Captain Hana's entire fleet had been waiting in silent mode behind the colony's moon. The Revik had flown straight into a trap. The Retribution lit up its engines and moved to intercept. 11 other warships followed. The human fleet was smaller in numbers but vastly superior in technology. The Revik Admiral knew immediately that he had made a terrible mistake. His options were fight and die or run and face disgrace at home. He chose to fight. The battle was completely one-sided. Human railguns found their range first. 3 Revik ships exploded before they could even shoot back. Missiles from both sides filled the space between the fleets, but Earth's point defense systems shot down most of the Revik missiles. The Revik point defense could not handle the sheer number of human missiles. Captain Hana watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Her fleet moved in perfect formation. Every shot counted. Every missile found a target. The Revik were brave but completely outmatched. Their ships were older designs with weaker shields and slower weapons. They never had a chance. The Revik Admiral tried to retreat after losing half his fleet. Hana had positioned fast destroyers to cut off that option. The remaining Revik ships were surrounded. She broadcast a surrender demand. Lay down weapons and prepare to be boarded. Refuse and be destroyed. Choose quickly. Most of the Revik captains surrendered. 3 ships tried to fight their way out. They were destroyed within minutes. The battle lasted 22 minutes from start to finish. 18 Revik warships entered the system. 3 escaped damaged. 6 were destroyed. 9 were captured intact. Earth lost 0 ships. Admiral Tay broadcast another message to the galaxy. The Revik government had chosen war. Earth responded appropriately. Any further attacks on human territory would result in direct strikes against Revik homeworlds. The choice was theirs. Stop now or watch their civilization burn. The Revik government collapsed 3 days later. Military leaders staged a coup. They arrested the officials who had ordered the attack. A new government sent desperate messages to Earth begging for peace. They would pay compensation. They would hand over any criminals Earth wanted. Just please stop the attacks, Ambassador Wan delivered Earth's terms. The Revik must dismantle their raider networks completely. They must allow human inspectors to verify compliance. They must pay compensation to the families of everyone killed. And they must publicly apologize for protecting criminals. Accept these terms or face continued military action. The new Revik government accepted immediately. They had no choice. Their military was broken. Their economy was collapsing. Public opinion had turned against the war. Within 2 weeks, Revik agreed to every single demand. Meanwhile, the trial of the 73 raiders began on Earth. The proceedings were broadcast across the entire galaxy. Millions of beings watched as humans demonstrated how justice should work. Evidence was presented carefully. Witnesses testified clearly. Defense lawyers argued their cases seriously. The raiders were found guilty of murder. The sentence was life imprisonment with no possibility of release. Some species thought this was too lenient. Others thought any punishment for criminals was unusual. But most observers were impressed by the fairness of the process. Earth showed that swift justice could still be just. Counselor Yuna gave a speech at the council praising Earth's justice system. She suggested that all member species should adopt similar standards. The speech caused enormous controversy. Breck accused her of being a human sympathizer. But many smaller species agreed with her privately. Behind closed doors, ambassadors from 40 different species contacted Minister Mina. They wanted to discuss security arrangements. Pirates threatened their trade routes. Slavers raided their colonies. Border disputes with neighbors turned violent. The council did nothing to help. Could Earth assist? Mina met with each ambassador personally. She listened to their concerns. She offered practical solutions. Earth could provide military training. They could share intelligence. In serious cases, human forces could assist with operations, but Earth wanted something in return. These species needed to support reform of the Council. The informal alliance grew quickly. Species that had been ignored by the major powers found a protector in humanity. They began coordinating their votes in council sessions. They pushed for reforms together. The balance of power was shifting. Councillor Breck watched his influence crumble. For 40 years, he had controlled council decisions through backroom deals and political favors. Now his coalition was falling apart. Species he thought he controlled were voting against him. His threats meant nothing anymore. Everyone knew Earth would protect its allies. He tried to organize opposition to Earth. He called meetings with other major powers. They needed to unite against humanity before it was too late. But the other powers were not interested. Some respected Earth's military strength. Others were dealing with their own internal problems. No one wanted to start a war they might lose. 6 months after Earth's first strike, a historic summit was called. 47 species gathered to discuss reforming the Federation. They invited Earth as an honored guest. Admiral Tay, Ambassador Wan, and Minister Mina attended together. The summit proposed sweeping changes. Create faster procedures for handling crimes. Give the Council actual enforcement powers. Establish independent investigators who could not be bribed. Hold member species accountable for protecting criminals. Make the system work for everyone, not just the powerful. Minister Mina gave a speech that was remembered for years. She spoke about what the Federation should be. A place where all species were protected equally, where justice was swift and fair, where the strong could not prey on the weak. Earth did not want to rule the galaxy. Humanity wanted to live in a galaxy worth living in. Her words resonated with the smaller species. They had waited decades for someone to speak like this. The major powers talked about order and stability. What they meant was protecting their privileges. Earth talked about justice. What they meant was actually delivering it. The summit voted to present their reforms to the full council. Breck tried to block them but could not gather enough support. The vote passed. The council would debate the reforms at the next full session. Captain Hyun continued running her intelligence network. She monitored every major power for threats to Earth or its allies. Her agents reported that most governments were adapting to the new reality. A few still dreamed of putting humanity in its place, but none were willing to actually try. Commander Jin's strike teams were busier than ever. Earth's new allies kept requesting help with pirate bases and slaver operations. Jin and her soldiers conducted operation after operation. Every mission was successful. Every criminal caught. The galaxy was learning that crime no longer paid when Earth was watching. Captain Hana's fleet became the core of a joint defense force. 12 species contributed ships to serve under her command. They trained together. They shared intelligence. They proved that different species could work together effectively when properly led. 1 year after the massacre, Admiral Tay visited the memorial on Earth. 73 names were carved in black stone. Families came to remember their dead. Tay's wife brought their surviving son. The boy placed flowers by his father's name. Tay stood before the memorial and thought about everything that had happened. The raids, the council's failure, the strikes, the battles, the reforms. So much had changed because 73 people died. Would they think the cost was worth it? He believed they would. The galaxy was better now. Not perfect, not even close, but better. Criminals were being caught. Victims were getting justice. The council was being forced to reform, all because Earth refused to accept that some lives did not matter. The full council session to debate reforms was scheduled for next month. Breck and the Old Guard would fight hard, but they would lose. Too many species wanted change. Too many had seen what Earth could do. The vote would pass. Ambassador Wan prepared her speech for that session. She would remind everyone why they were there. 73 humans died because the system failed. Thousands of others from dozens of species died because the system failed. The choice was simple. Fix the system or watch it become completely irrelevant. On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Hana received another mission. Pirates were operating near a small colony. The locals had begged the council for help for months. Nothing happened. Now they asked Earth instead. Hana ordered her fleet to move out. This was what they did now. Protect those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth struck brutally when necessary. Humanity protected its people and its allies with overwhelming force. But Earth also offered friendship to those who wanted justice. The choice was yours. Work with humans or get out of their way. Either option was acceptable. But never again would anyone dismiss humanity as weak. The Galactic Council would never be the same. The massacre of 73 humans had changed everything.